this budget briefing of Subcommittee M of the Committee on Finance on the budgets of the Department of Trade and Industry and its attached agencies. Good morning. At this point, may I ask the committee secretary to acknowledge our resource persons?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our distinguished officials and resource persons for today's budget hearing. First, we have the Honorable Secretary Alfredo Pascual, Yusek Ana Carolina Sanchez, COS of the Office Secretary. We also have Undersecretary Rafaelita Aldaba from the Competitiveness and Innovation Group, Undersecretary Blesila Lantayona, Regional Operations Group, Undersecretary Seferino Rodolfo from the Board of Investment, Assistant Secretary Agaton Chodoro Overo from the Legal Services and Legislative Affairs of DTI, ASEC Leonila Baluyot, Regional Operations Group, Assistant Secretary Alan Hepti from the Industry Development and Trade Policy Group, Assistant Secretary Domingo Tolentino Jr. from Regional Operations Group. We also have Assistant Secretary Maria Cristina Roque, Regional Operations Group, Assistant Secretary Mary Jean Pacheco from the Consumer Protection Group, Director Robert Alvin Arceo from the Planning and Management Service, Director Maria Asuncion Cruzada, Director from the Financial Service. From the attached agencies, corporations, we have Executive Director Nelly Nita Diliera. We also have Executive Director Marco Maat from Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, Assistant Director Ginaline Sakmar Bajola from the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. Also from the Office of the Secretary, we have ED Altea Karen Antonio, Mr. Jan Salvador Reyes, and Mr. Vince Liwanag. We also have the Executive Director Maria Veronica Magsino from BOI, Director Sandra Marie Recolizado from BOI, Acting Director Ian Dennis Baniked from BOI, Mr. June Policarpio from BOI, Ms. Junette Baculfo, also from BOI, and Ms. Cristina Vinas from BOI. From the Competitiveness and Innovation Group, we have Director Lilian Salonga, Attorney Maria Teresa Faustino, and Ms. Janelle Makugay. From the Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, we have Ms. Darcy Lee Aguilar. From Consumer Protection Group, we have Director Marcus Valdez, Director Neil Katahay, Attorney Cherry Carbonell, Assistant Director Ferdinand Manfoste, Ms. Perpetua Reyes Lim, Mr. Ryan Ray Baluyot, and Ms. Tina Bungay. From Industry Development and Trade Policy Group, we have Director Maria Gizalim, Director Bianca Saikimte, Assistant Director Armando Mercado Jr., Director Janice Dimayakyak, Assistant Director Marie Sherilyn Akia, Ms. Angie Brosas, Ms. Merlin Diaz, Mr. Arlene Giapal, Mr. Dimnatang Radia, Mr. Raison Arobinto. From the Management Service Group, we have Ms. Zeman Langit, Marie Shera, Maria Teresa Montemayor, Matt Padua, Thea Beatriz Santos. From the Regional Operations Group, we have Director Marovic Bonuan, Director Emma Asusano, Mr. Ferdinand Apari, and Ms. Numencia Lansangan. From the Liaison Office of Legislative Affairs, we have Mr. Francis Sune, Ms. Arlene Forcadilla, Mr. Wilfredo Artigo, Mr. Bonifacio Antolin. From the Department of Budget Management, we have Ms. Lorimi Pereda, Ms. Evita Dakiwag, Ms. Jelly San Miguel, Ms. Clarissa Hogno, Ms. Helen Goldago, and Ms. Rihanna Grace Bacosa. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ComSec, and good morning to the DTI family and to all its attached agencies. Before we start the presentation, allow me to express my full support for the Department of Trade and Industry and its attached agencies' 2024 proposed budget. Our national budget for the fiscal year of 2024 is grounded on the agenda for prosperity and securing a future-proof and sustainable economy. The President's budget message highlighted the importance of increasing the efficiency and productivity of our economic resources to achieve this future-proof economy. And I quote, "The underlying logic to our infrastructure development is economic efficiency. We are opening up all gateways to mobilize goods and services at less cost, in less time, and ultimately to drive the economy." I support this vision for the sustainable economy as a testament of my support being the chairperson of the Committee on Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship. I'm happy to share some updates on the legislative measures centered on these goals. For one, the House of Representatives adopted in total the Senate versions of the Internet Transaction Act and is just awaiting the President's signature before becoming a law. And of course, the One Town, One Product Act, or OTOP, both of which are seen to increase MSME's employment capacity, products and services to the country. This is in recognition of the fact that MSMEs are the backbone of the Philippine economy, having constituted 99.5% of the total registered businesses in the country. This is also one of the reasons why I am glad with the recent developments in our trade industry, such as the adoption of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, last June 2023, for the Philippines to actively participate and increase competitiveness in regional and global trade. To our DTI family, I am eager to hear your plans on how we could utilize the RCEP for the benefit of our local businesses while safeguarding our industries amid import surges. It will also be appreciated if you could discuss the arranged plans for the greater integration of Filipino businesses in the wider market access for their goods and services. To our colleagues from DTI, I am interested to hear the details and the rationale behind your proposed budget for next fiscal year. Upon careful perusal of the proposed 2024 budget of DTI, there is an apparent 6% total increase from the prior year's budget. However, we see that there are significant decreases in the budget of some of the agency's projects, totaling to a 3% decrease. In particular, the One Town, One Product, or the OTOP program, despite being enacted into law early this year, has a 22% decrease in its budget. As the principal sponsor of OTOP law, this representation hopes to increase support for the program now that it is already a law. If it would not be possible for the additional budget allocation for the program, sustained support will be apt for its effective implementation. In addition, we have noted that there are also decreases in the budget in the Consumer Protection Program and the Consumer Education and Advocacy Program, despite them being on the priority sectors for the next fiscal year's development agenda. The anticipation of the Internet Transaction Act being passed into law, along with increasing cases of online scams, should also be factored into the allocation of the budget for these core programs for consumer protection. Apart from these concerns, it is likewise alarming that there is a rising vape epidemic, especially with the younger population. On this, I am anticipating our discussion of the implementation of the vape law and the illegal selling of vape products to minors. I am keen to know how the Art Department has intensified your enforcement activities and how you plan to further strengthen your efforts in monitoring sellers, both physical and e-commerce alike. Equally important are the disposition and plans of the DTI on the price hike requests on essential commodities by our manufacturers, considering that holidays are still a few months away. Likewise, I hope to hear about the systems and measures that will be undertaken to address the issue of smuggling and the recent raids on suspected smuggled rice with an estimated worth of 559 million pesos. Further, the recent news revealed that the Department of Agriculture and the DTI are mulling over to lift the price cap on rice, quoting an official from the Bureau of Plant Industry, quote, "The prices have started to stabilize. Once the DEA and DTI find it stable, we can already recommend to the President what should be done." Further quoting our Trade Secretary Alfredo Pascual, imposition of price cap for rice is not a standalone measure of the government. As such, I am imploring our DTI family to present their alternatives to this motion to control the increase in prices of rice. Let me take this opportunity as well to extend my warmest commendations to Secretary Alfredo Pascual and the DTI as a whole for your satisfactory actions on numerous trade concerns thus far. To end, I'm looking forward to overseeing the discussion on the budget of one of the most essential and key players in our national economy. It is all in our best interest to see through the effective discussion of DTI's budget, as it will direct the trajectory of the future Filipino individuals and businesses. To attain a sustainable economy, we must start with the development of the sustainability of our core projects for the Filipino people. And I would also like, at this point, I would also like to manifest that my colleague, Senator Bongo, also gives his full support to the budget of the DTI. So for the efficiency of today's hearing, we are allotting 10 minutes for the presentation of the Office of the Secretary of the DTI, to be followed by questions from our fellow senators. Before we turn it over to the agency, well, at this point, there are no questions from any other senators. So at this point, I'd like to turn the floor over to the agency, and let us proceed with the DTI presentation for OSEC and its attached agencies. In the interest of time, may I respectfully request my colleagues if we can finish the DTI presentation first before we ask our questions or requests for clarifications. Thank you very much. So now at this point, I'll give the floor to DTI Secretary Alfredo Pascual.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, Senator Mark Villar. Good morning to all. Today, I am pleased to present quickly the Department of Trade and Industry 2024 National Expenditure Plan. Our vision is to see more inclusive and prosperous Philippines with employment and income opportunities for all. Our mission is, as the government's main economic catalyst, is to enable innovative, competitive, and job-generating, inclusive businesses and investments, and empower our consumers. Our direction in this administration is to implement industrialization through innovation and digitalization by transforming DTI into a more agile and responsive organization. Let me talk about the DTI budget under the National Expenditure Plan. To summarize, the total budget of the DTI in the fiscal year 2024 National Expenditure Program is 7.91 billion, which is barely 1/8 of 1% of the national program. Of this 7.91 billion pesos, 5.3 billion is for the Office of the Secretary, and 2.3 billion for our 5 attached agencies, namely the Board of Investments, the Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, the Cooperative Development Authority, or CDA, the Design Center of the Philippines, and the Trade and Training Center. I'll present the budget in a visual form. Here, the pie charts by allotment of class. As you can see in the slide, the DTI as a whole and the DTI OSEC mirror slightly the same proportions as before. 50% MOE, 38% personnel services, and 13% capital outlay. The next slide shows by agency our budget is 69% OSEC, 17% CDA, 9% BOI, 2% for CIAP and DCP, and 1% for PTTC. Let me now go to slide 18. These are the features of the National Expenditure Program, which basically mimics the 8-point near-term socio-economic agenda. There are more serious priorities of the government, so our mandate falls mainly into the other priority sectors in the near term. While we have contributed to ensuring food security, reducing transport and logistic costs, and improving bureaucratic efficiency, as well as improving health. Our main support is for the Filipino workforce, research and development, innovation, and MSME development. Having said that, we must invest in our future, and that is what we do at the DTI. Promote investments and increase employability of our people, which are yet in the 8-point medium-term socioeconomic agenda, not in the near term. Thus, while we are not in these priorities, we must nonetheless prepare ourselves, our labor force, our industries, and our business environment for the future that we aspire to have. A more inclusive and prosperous Philippines with employment and income opportunities for all. Under the MSME development, we have, of course, our MSME development program, the shared services facilities, co-local negosyo centers, and OTOP. There are also, as mentioned, good morning, Your Honor, Senator Loren. There are programs that we would like to pursue, but for which no allocation has been given. These are the Rural Agro-Enterprise Partnership for Inclusive Development, Growth or Rapid Growth, the establishing the structure for the Mindanao Agro-Enterprise Development Project. Those are just examples of projects that are not funded. In support of the other priority sectors, particularly research and development, as well as innovation, the DTI will promote digital trade and market access of MSME development. 58.5 million pesos budget is allotted in fiscal year 2024 of the NEP under the implementation of the Philippine Creative Industries Development Act, or PACIDA, is the Malikhaing Pinoy program, which is planned to receive 50 million in the NEP for 2024. A big reduction from this year's 360 million pesos.
Mr. Chair, I know that it's important to look at the presentation first and then the questions, but I'd like to know, with your permission, can I ask now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please proceed, Senator.
Those which don't have 2024 NEP provisions, which the good secretary says is not funded, are these new programs of DTI? That's why it's empty? Or did the DBM slash it completely even if you had presented it in tier 1 of your NEP?
Yeah, these are projects that were approved, were started earlier.
Oh,
But
that
you-
was already existing when Secretary Pascual came into DTI, but they are, and you had
Proposed.
suggested or proposed
Yeah.
budgets, but it was totally, there must
Yeah.
be a reason. I'm sure DBM would not just scrap something, there must be a reason, but maybe just prepare to answer us and convince the chair
Well,
and I that it's important to restore it.
Well, the goal of this project is to provide enabling conditions, the rapid growth, for the sustained growth of MSMEs in selected agricultural commodity chains with cooperative advantages, market demand, growth potential, links to small farmers, and potential job creator. We propose a budget of
Secretary, just
800
1 minute. I'd just like to take the opportunity to formally welcome Senator Lauren Legarda.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Mr.
much for your
Chair.
presence.
Since you mentioned that, and when I entered, I heard OTOP.
Yes.
Just as an anecdote which is based on fact. I've been sitting here since 1998, okay? When you were probably a teenager or a child. And there were years, and the DTI, who have been in DTI for so long, the same problem as CARE, as Y, as TRAPCAP, etc., na zero budget, would happen to OTOP. And I would ask, why is the OTOP zero budget? And I would be told in 201 or 202 that it's not supported, or it only existed in a certain administration, but in the next admin, ayaw na raw. And there were reasons. And remember, OTOP started in Japan, right? It was Japan. Japan. It was a trip of then President Gloria Arroyo. Remember? Tama. Mali ba ako, Yusek Bless? Japan. It was a trip of then President Arroyo, went to Japan, and then Japan started the OTOP concept. So it's something that's like a, we can explain that to our Japanese counterparts, parliamentarians, and really see how the OTOP has influenced the Japanese culture and way of life. And the reason why I mentioned that, saka na tayo mag-usap sa OTOP, kasi when I arrived OTOP, may mga zero sila.
Yes.
Ganito rin ang nangyari nung panahong una kong termino, kaya natutuwa ako na naisabatas natin. I authored that from 20 years ago, and thank you for being chair of the committee and giving it priority. So, hindi na zero. Siguro naman, imposibleng masiro. Nandito yung author, nandyan yung sponsor.
Yes.
Hindi posibleng masiro. Pero nung panahon yun, ang salita din, ang dahilan din sa akin, sorry po, wala pong suporta. And then, there was actually some opposition eh. I don't know, DTI would know. I don't know if you want to put it on record. May mga ayaw noon ng OTOP. Kala nila, basta maraming dahilan. Ayaw yung OTOP. Ewan ko bakit. May idea ko, pero ayaw nung iba, nung OTOP noon. Pero salamat at naisabatas natin at dapat naman bigyan ng pondo. Yun lang.
Yes, thank you, Sen.
Thank you,
And
Mr. Chair.
for the record,
Yeah.
I'd like to also thank you for your unending support for the OTOP as one of the main proponents who's, because of your push, it became a law. And now, the next step is for us to make sure that the law is funded in the budget, and it becomes a very effective program for government. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And at this point, Secretary, you may proceed with your presentation.
I just want to go quickly to highlight some of the other items that we propose that have not been allocated any funds. One, the Center for Artificial Intelligence Research, and then the Industry 4.0 Pilot Factory, and the strengthening price and supply intelligence for consumer empowerment, implementation of RA 8800, the Safeguard Measure Act, the implementation of the E-Commerce Act 2000, international obligation to retain global recognition of the Philippines Accreditation Bureau as the national accreditation body, DTI Strategic Communication Plan, particularly for RCEP, and a few others. There is a summary on slide 25. This slide summarizes our request to fund programs dedicated to implement provisions of legislation as well as international obligations. We believe that funding these are mandatory in the exercise of such mandate. How many minutes do I still have? Huh? Okay, let me just go quickly to the some of the accomplishments of DTI, starting with slide 30. Our physical performance has been satisfactory. We start with our first organizational outcome, which is exports and investments increase. The Strategic Investments Priority Plan, or SIPP, was approved on 24 May 2022 to sustain the momentum toward economic recovery and creation of jobs for all. The combined investments approved by BOI and PESA and other IPAs amounted to, in US dollars, in the first half of 2023, it's 8.4 billion US dollars. 8.4 billion US dollars. Coming from last semester, July to December 2022, of $3.2 billion, and the earlier semester, the first half of 2022, $1.1 billion. The top investors include Singapore, Japan, the Netherlands, the UK, and the US. Majority of the investments were in the following industries: electricity, gas, and air conditioning supply, information and communication, real estate activities, manufacturing and transport, and storage. The presidential visits were able to bring investment leads of amounting to 25 billion US dollars, which translate into more than hundreds of thousands of employment opportunities for Filipino. Slide 31. Under our industry development program, we have developed industries to drive employment in the industry sector. In 2022, 6.98 million Filipinos were employed, up by 11% from 6.2% in 2021. During the year, DTI-OSEC formulated 480 industry roadmaps, policies, plans, researches, studies, and position papers, and conducted 1,100 localization activities, conferences, workshops, consultative, and other capacity building sessions. The Philippines and Indonesia signed an MOU for cooperation in the development and promotion of the creative economy. Prior to the enactment of the Philippine Creative Industries Development Act, we have already jump-started our efforts in taking stock of the Philippine creative industries, including the conduct of industry studies, stakeholder consultations, focus group discussions, and workshops. Cross-cutting issues and constraints hinder the development of the creative industries, such as lack of official statistics, limited access to capital, skills mismatch, limited access to new technologies, and limited access to global value chain. To address this, we launched the Creative Philippines or Malikhaing Pinoy program, a holistic set of programs to effectively implement the provisions under PASIDA. And we are actively pursuing the implementation of the PASIDA as we speak. Next slide, 32. We assisted a total of more than 545,000 MSMEs in 2022. The Negosyo Centers are one-stop shops that provide business registration assistance, business advisory services, and business information and advocacy, and other functions related to Go Negosyo Act and related laws. A total of 1,355 Negosyo Centers were established nationwide, including BARM, with 28 new Negosyo Centers established in 2022. In Negosyo Centers, more than 500,000 MSMEs were assisted. This involved close to 1 million clients served. DTI has established more than 3,000 shared service facilities, for which we didn't have any allocation in 2022, except for runoff from the previous year. But this year, thankfully, we're getting 500 million pesos against our request of 800 million pesos. Slide 33. We affirmed our commitment to provide better, safe, and quality products to consumers through different proactive efforts and interventions. In 2022, 98% of consumer complaints under jurisdiction of DTI were resolved within prescribed time. DTI regularly monitors establishments to ensure their continuing compliance with the fair trade laws and other laws that have recently been passed, like the vape law. Slide 34. In 2022, we recorded an average of 84% level of consumer awareness nationwide, meaning 84% of Filipinos were aware that they have rights and responsibilities as consumers. In June 2023, the level of consumer awareness was recorded at 89% for the period in review, representing the highest results since 2012. This great news for consumer empowerment, and we hope to continue this trend in the future. A total of 11,868 consumer awareness and advocacy initiatives were undertaken in 2022. This produced more than 1,500 consumer education information materials, and were rated satisfactory or better in advocacy initiatives by 99% of our clients. On that note, Mr. Honorable Chairman, I end my report, and we're open to respond to questions from the members of the committee.
Yes, thank you, Secretary. So this presentation encompasses the whole DTI presentation for today. Yes. Okay. At this point, thank you very much, Secretary Pascual, for your presentation for the DTI. We will now give our colleagues the opportunity to raise questions and ask for clarifications regarding the proposed budget of the DTI. So at this point, I'd like to recognize Senator Legarda for her questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps we can proceed with the unfunded proposals. Just very short, maybe the name of program and whether it's new, that's why it's unfunded, maybe not known yet to DBM, or if it's in the previous administration, and how relevant is it? Just maybe put it on the board and then one by one lang po para maintindihan namin, and which of that is really a priority which you believe must be supported. Thank you.
We just go through the slides. Slide 19, please. Slide 19. Next. Yeah. Slide 19 relate the programs related to MSME development. As you may note, there are programs that were funded in 2023 but not funded in 2024. Specifically, the Pangkabuhayan sa Pagbangon at Ginhawa. This is an old program that gives us funds for distribution to small businesses affected by calamities, fires, floods, etc. The next is the rural.
It had the funding this year, right? Do you set, Mr. Chair, do you give cash or
Yes.
capital assistance, or do you give equipment like SSF, Pangkabuhayan?
It
It's the
depends.
first time I've heard of this program.
It depends on the nature of the business of the MSME. If there are in sewing business, we give sewing machines. If it's a sari-sari store that was devastated, we give starting goods.
Similar to Dole
or cash
Kabuhayan. Maybe because it has duplicate with other agencies. But it's good. Kasi when people come to us, actually, it's good we're live streamed. Ang gusto ko po sanang, pagkatapos itong tanong ito, walk us through kung paano magkamaliit na negosyo ang isang nasalanta ng bagyo, ng baha, nasunugan, or talagang wala lang pagkakitaan, pero may interest magnegosyo. So itong Pangkabuhayan sa Pagbangon at Ginhawa, kasi ang hahaba natin magbigay ng titulo di ba? And it may be similar to Dole Dilip,
The short name is PPG. I think it's similar to Dole's Tupad.
Maybe it's like Dilip or Kabuhayan or Tupad. That's why may baka tinanggal. Sige, I'm just trying to guess why Okay. Then the rural agro enterprise, rapid.
Oo. As I mentioned earlier, these projects provide enabling conditions for the sustained growth of SMEs in selected agricultural commodities, mga coffee.
Kasi po ganito.
cacao.
Maybe give us an example of a successful rapid project. So, napaliwanag po nyo ng simple yung pangkabuhayan at pagbangon sa mga nabagyo, nabaha, gustong malit na negosyo, pwedeng sari-sari store. So, parang dole kabuhayan. Okay, zero funding yan ngayon. Check natin. Itong rapid, yes, MSME in rural areas for agro-enterprise. Give us an example, sir.
I'll call on the USEC for our regional
Operations. O sige. Para lang maintindihan natin and if we need to restore. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. This is actually a fund with collaboration sa IFAD natin. This is an IFAD funded, but we have a counterpart, International Food and Agricultural Development, which is actually based in Italy. So, meron po silang support sa atin dito, pero kailangan na merong counterpart ang government of the Philippines. So, it started in 2019 and it will go for 5 to 6 years. So, ang project po na ito ay covered niya ang 6 regions, all regions in Mindanao, including BARM, plus Region 8. So, ito talaga yung mga agricultural, and it supports the entire value chain of coffee, cacao, processed food and nuts, and also coconut.
Para
So,
maliwanag
apat
po, ito'y isang kooperasyon. It's a technical assistance or is it a grant from the Italian government? And will it only move if there is a counterpart of the Philippine government through DTI? Thanks.
It is both grant and loan fund, ma'am. So, merong portion sa kanilang plano na to be funded by the loan fund and the grant, and there is also a portion of the plan that will be funded via the fund of the government of the Philippines.
This was a grant and a loan fund with the Italian government worked on.
IFAD, ma'am, International Food and Agro.
I heard Italy. No,
no, it's based in Italy.
the IFAD is based in Italy,
Yes, ma'am.
but it is. What is it? Is it a UN cooperation agreement? What is it? Is it under FAO?
UN.
Para maintindihan namin.
Part of the UN family, but ang tawag
IFAD
niya,
is not a UN agency, it's a program.
Program,
But
yeah.
under what UN agency, under what treaty or convention or agreement? So that we understand.
hindi ko masyadong familiar.
Ano may alam?
Pero
Baka
ano
alam
siya,
to
ma'am,
ni ASEC JEPTI pag mga agreements.
Yeah,
Because we have to understand, if IFAD is the International Food and Development, if it is an implementing program of a treaty or a convention, and we are not funding our part, what happens?
May I just clarify, Your Honor? The International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD, is an international financial institution and specialized agency of the United Nations.
Okay, so did we ask for it? Did we apply for it? Or was it based on a bilateral agreement?
We applied for it, ma'am, and it was approved way back in 2019.
Oh, pre-pandemic, and it was funded for this year. Maybe you've not utilized a 108 million. This is 108 million, right?
Yeah. Kasi nung nag-umpisa siya, ma'am, doon na kaagad nag-pandemic. So, medyo we had a delay
Nandiyan pa yung pondo nyo.
in the implementation.
Sigurado ako. So kindly give, Mr. Chair, give us a copy of, no, what's your obligation rate of 108 to date as of September?
50%, ma'am.
Okay. So that's fair. 50% up to September or June 30?
June 30.
June 30. That's kind of okay. Kalahating taon, naka 50% kayo. What happens if next year it's not funded and it's a 6-year agreement?
Well, some of the projects that we have identified under our plan will not be pushed through because this will be funded by the counterpart of the Philippine government.
Give us just a one-pager brief so that it's clear to us what part of the funds you're asking for. No, this 108, what part is a fund for grant, what part is a loan fund, and what kind of programs kape? Magtatanim ng kape, pag-harvest ng kape, meron bang coffee processing din, at may packaging at labeling kompleto at marketing doon? Saan? Let's say sa North Cotabato ba? Saan sa Mindanao? Ganun, para maintindihan namin.
We will submit, ma'am.
Because there's a reason why DBM did not fund it. Baka, there must be a reason. Yeah. Okay. So this is, I'm talking about rapid, huh? Or are you is the rapid the same as the Mindanao Agro Enterprise Development? Dalawang magkasunod, parehong agro enterprise eh. And you mentioned about Mindanao. Ano po dito? It's both agro enterprise.
Hindi, yung RAPID is a program of the Philippine government through DTI, yung establishing fundamental structure of the Mindanao Agro Enterprise Development is a project in partnership with the Asian Development Bank that aims to address the issue of
That's the
limited
ADB
value.
and the IFAD? No.
No, separate.
Which is the IFAD? Rapid.
RAPID.
Which is funded this year. How about the ADB project, sir? The Agro Enterprise Development for Mindanao again. So, Rapid is Agro Enterprise.
This new.
I'm sorry.
New.
It's a new project of the ADB. Is it a loan? Just so that it's clear po. Okay. Why are Okay, let's so that it's clear. Yung Rural Agro Enterprise Partnership Rapid, ito po Mindanao rin, di ba po? Sabi nyo kape, etc. And this is the IFAD funded project, loan fund, and grant from IFAD, which is a UN program. That's what you said earlier. Do we understand correctly? That's Rapid? And you will give us a one-pager about that.
RAPID
Yes.
is not just for Mindanao, the way I understand.
Oh, I heard Mindanao.
Region
Mindanao
8.
and Region 8. Okay.
Bicol, ano?
8 is Eastern Visayas. Yes, yes. Okay, because Region 5. So, Rapid, you'll give us a one-pager. There must be a reason. Anyway, you have funds which will extend till next year. But this zero tong Mindanao Agro Enterprise, you said it's an ADB project. When you say it's an ADB project, what is it?
The
Is it
details
a
here.
grant? Is it a loan?
As I said, it has more coverage than just Mindanao. The Rapid Growth Project is implemented in regions 9, 10, 11, 12, Caraga, and BARM, covering 21 provinces.
Rapid
The priority commodities of the value chain supported by Rapid Project are cacao, coffee, coconut, and processed fruit and nuts.
We just request, sir, a one-pager so that we fully understand, and we want to see the difference of the agro enterprise development also in Mindanao. What is different between Rapid and the last one on the line, which is not funded this year because you said it's a new program of the ADB. Can you kindly explain so that the chair and I would understand it better? If it's an ADB program, what will happen if it's unfunded?
We'll submit the...
No, but I want the answer po. What will happen if it's unfunded? If it's an ADB program, is it a loan? Is it a grant? And if it's a grant, that's the reason why it's unfunded, because we don't need to fund because it's a grant. But if it's partially a grant, partial loan, we want to understand it. Okay, if it's a loan, please speak on the mic. Kasi sir, it's important that the whole DTI family is here. I am certain that each program of project of DTI has a focal person. Of course, the secretary cannot micromanage all of this. So perhaps the focal person can explain to the chair and I each question here. Who can answer? Who is in charge of the ADB program? Maybe that's why DBM did not support it, because no one is in charge or it may not be important. But if you say it's
I understand
ADB,
it's
yeah.
still under process, kaya wala pang funding.
Kaya ko po, the reason why I'm walking us all through this, so that everyone will understand, because at face value, pag hindi pinopondohan Mindanao, masama yan. Bakit zero Mindanao? Agro-enterprise. Pero kasi, bago lang at hindi pa kayo ready or wala pang absorptive capacity ba?
Effective ba?
Kaya wala pa po. I'm trying to understand. Yes.
It's not yet effective, so maybe that's the reason why the funding was not
Okay.
given. But
Request
we hope
lang
to complete it this year.
Okay, so you should not have
2024
put it.
at least, you know.
Okay, so you should not have put it in your MSME development with the numbers of the present year, communications lang, so that it can be on another page of programs under negotiation
Yes.
for funding in NEP 2025. Ganun po. Kasi it doesn't look good that we are not funding an agro-enterprise project of the ADB in Mindanao. Yun lang po. So kaya nga may dahilan para akong defender ng DBM kasi hindi magandang tignan na hindi sinuportahan. Hindi rin maganda sa chair na hindi natin i-restore kung ADB project yan para sa Mindanao. So maliwanag naman po, may dahilan. Yun lang. Tsaga lang, the reason why I'm walking you through it so that we all understand what we're doing here. Okay, next po, yung mga unfunded. Thank you.
This is a listing of projects related to new technology and research and development, digital trade and market access solution for MSME development. Who's handling the Tita? Is this yours? No? Oo. Kanina itong first. Pero may funding naman to for 2024, no? I think the important items are the Center for Artificial Intelligence
Sir,
Research. Okay.
before you proceed, it's interesting. I like to see digital trade and market access solution for MSME. Those are all the important buzzwords which are game changers. So, may I know who's in charge? Why was there no funding for the present GAA year, or is it a new program? And why is it only? It's in the NEP of 2024. Ibig sabihin, sinuportahan ng DBM ang isang bagong programa, pero bakit kaya last year hindi linagay sa NEP or hindi na natin sinuportahan sa GAA?
It's a new project, Your Honor.
It's a new project. Who's in charge?
Sino in charge?
Who's in charge? Just give us,
Director Emma?
okay, what is this about? It's digital, it's online marketing. Is it an online platform? It's 58 million. That's big money. Online. Does it cost that much? What is it? All MSMEs now can go to DTI? May we know what it is? Because you put figures there. That's 58 million for an online platform for MSMEs. That's good. But how do we tell the MSMEs? Let's say those who are going to the
Director Emma.
National Arts and Crafts Fairs for 5 days in Megatrade, who are coming all the way from Kalinga, and the others are coming from Palawan or Mindanao, how they can have online presence. That's 58 million you can help them with.
May call on Asek Jean. Si Asek Jean. Hindi alam? Ha?
Madam Senator, thank you for guesting in Kat Iba pa last time.
Pag-usapan nyo to, kasi importante to, 58 million yan Paano ma-access ng MSMEs? Ang laking pondo yan. O paano? Sinong gagastos ng perang yan? Yan ang tanong ni Senator Villar.
Yes, Madam Senator, I believe that this project is part of our promotion of e-commerce, but I think this is an original proposal when we submitted, I believe, to the DBM. But we actually are requesting after the initial submissions to really fund a more priority budget related to e-commerce, because we are already preparing for the Internet Transactions Act. So part of the budget that we're looking at includes digital trade and market access, Madam Senator.
So it's still not clear, Mary Jean. You may not. Who's the focal for this? Under which? Kay Bless ulit. Oh,
Yes,
That
ma'am.
actually originated
Yes.
by,
Sir?
yeah. Oh,
I
okay.
will-
Originated
I will-
Kasi
by
kung,
the
Yes, sir.
author
kung
niya.
nasa NEP, ibig
Yes, sir.
sabihin, original project nyo. Kaya nga, and we're supporting it. Gusto ko lang
Ito,
maintindihan
hindi ba
kung
yun sa
paano
author
nyo
pa-
gagamitin.
natin?
Iba, sir.
Iba yan?
Ah.
Oh, sige, explain.
Okay, ma'am, see you tomorrow, ha? Sa ating ano.
At kayo ha,
Yes, ma'am.
Mark, you should be there. You're chairman of
Nag-pray nga kami na
You
walang
were
ulan
invited.
bukas.
Your office, yeah. 5 days.
Tomorrow, 4
Oo,
o'clock.
bagyo o wala.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Dapat nandun tayo.
Okay. Sir,
O, ano
din,
itong
Senator.
MSME development nyo for online?
This one actually, ma'am, is the digital program for the advancement of the MSMEs because we had a lot of programs already. Kanya-kanya, no? And ito ngayon, this will be focused now program, and it will be, the components would be Go Digital program for MSMEs, which actually includes development of enterprise resource planning tool and monitoring and evaluation growth tracker for MSMEs when it comes to digitalization.
Ang ganda pakinggan, Yusek Bless.
Meron
Pero
tong-
paano nyo ipapatuloy? Akin na lang yung isang pahina nyo yan, ha? Padala nyo.
Okay, yes,
pero,
ma'am.
pero bakit under sa regional operations? Of course, kasi MSMEs, hindi ba dapat
MSMEs.
under kay Yusek Aldaba kasi competitiveness and innovation?
This will
Online
be
eh.
our contribution to their very specific sector na MSMEs because we really have to do frontline support for the MSMEs. So, dapat may tao ito, may pangalan, may ganon. We can
So,
provide
all
you with this.
MSMEs around the country, which is under you as regional operations head, can access online training, or they're part of an e-marketplace. What is it?
Capacity building on digitalization, and then we also have enhancement of the company profile monitoring system, which is lodged in BISMED. So right now we have this company profile monitoring system, which actually records all our assistants sa MSMEs. And ang ano dito is
Ganito, simplihan nyo na lang, kung ako ay isang maliit na negosyo sa barangay, sa isang probinsya, paano ako magkaroon ng Facebook page, Instagram page, paano ko makakabenta ng goods ko sa pondo ayon sa MSME Digital Trade and Market Access ng DTI. Ganun. Dapat yun ang liniliwanag nyo sa inyong online platforms at bukas sa darating na 5 araw, ipaliwanag nyo. Meron po tayong pondo para po kayo ay magkaroon ng digital presence. Kung mga wala pang Facebook na Kalinga Weavers o mga taga-tawi-tawi na darating gumagawa ng tutok, pwede na po ganito, ganun. Pero lahat
Yes,
naman may
ma'am.
Facebook na. So we just want to understand that. Of course, we are supportive, but these are all buzzwords, but I want to understand it. How are you going to spend it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ang isang component pa dito, ma'am, is yung ating mentorship program and integrated digital marketing training program, which will help our MSMEs establish a digital storefront. So sa ating mga apps. So parang this is really guided and nagme-mentor tayo para mas dumami yung my presence sa ating mga e-commerce platforms.
That's okay for now. Again, I would request just a one-pager so that there's more clarity and perhaps operationalize what you mean. Dapat yung how to, pag ako'y MSME, paano ko kayo maaabot DTI? Paano ko makakuha ng kapital? Kanina yung pangkabuhayan. Paano ko kayo maaabot para turuan ako sa online kung ako'y maliit na MSME na walang kilalang politiko pero may talento at gumagawa sa probinsya. Ganun dapat ang ating pag-reach out sa kanila. Okay. Proceed please, Secretary.
The next item, Your Honor, the next item is the Center for Artificial intelligence research or CARE, which has been which has been included in our plan for revitalizing Philippine industries under the Philippine Development Plan. This is being undertaken by our Competitiveness and Innovation Group under USEC Pita Aldaba.
AI is so important. USEC Aldaba, bakit ziniro? Or you didn't have a... wala kayong NEP? You didn't have a
Wala.
NEP
Wala
proposal?
pa.
Mhm.
We've been submitting the same proposal for 2 years now, but yes, ma'am.
Yeah, last year we
but we
also-
haven't.
You're the one in charge of our Innovation Act, right? With NEDA.
With
Because it
NEDA,
says you're the
yes.
Innovation Group Head. So
Yes,
it's
Madam.
DTI, namely you, USEC Aldaba, it says competitive. That's very important. And NEDA, who's your counterpart in NEDA as a focal for the Innovation Act?
DDG Rose.
Okay, so kayo ni Rose Edilion. Yeah. In fact, I missed that launch on the strategy, etc. Yeah. But this is important, AI. How much was your ask in the NEP?
200 million.
Mm. And there must be a reason why they did not fund you. And just tell us, probably convince us, the chair, why is this center? Is this a physical center or is it an online center? Is it like an institute or research? What is it?
It's a physical center, Senator, and it's going. The goal, of course, is for us to become an AI center of excellence in the region in the near future. Yeah, and it's going to house our data scientists, researchers, engineers who will be conducting AI R&D, Senator, to support the needs of industries, including MSMEs, of course, startups, large companies, and multinationals. And it's also going to provide trainings, capacity buildings on AI. And new products and services, IPs, would come out from this center, Senator.
So that's capital outlay. It's a center. It's infra.
It's infra.
You
and-
can do all your AI research even without the infra, everything you said, with the existing building where you are or offices, right? Yes.
We
No?
don't have sufficient space right now, Senator. And apart from the space, we will be needing supercomputers po. And including salaries to hire all the necessary staff.
It would take 2 years minimum. The DPWH secretary, former secretary, would know that better. And knowing government, it's so slow. That means all our research on AI will not ensue until the structure is done, and then we fund the acquisition of computers, etc. So that will be 2025 and beyond. So by the time all the ASEAN neighbors advances AI, tayo wala. Hindi, kaya nga, kasi nakalagay Center for Artificial Intelligence, hindi clear kung infra ito. So what I'm saying is that while the infra is not yet set up, hindi ba, dapat nagtutuloy na tayo ng ating AI workshops and capacity building and research. Let's not wait for the infra to be built and the computers, well, of course, we need the computers. Dapat yun muna kung anong space, kung di kayo pinagbiyan doon. I don't know what the chair feels about it, if you're inclined to give them the building they need. Is it a specialized kind of building? Not sure.
Is it an incubator, this Center of AI? Is that the purpose of this?
This is a research center, R&D center. The model is the A-Star of Singapore. Anyway, not totally. It supports industry. It's industry-oriented. It's not an academic research. You know, it's a way to sensitize and to help MSMEs adopt AI in their operations. the large companies can take care of themselves. They're getting consultants from everywhere, including consultants from abroad, to implement AI solutions to their problems. But these small, medium enterprises would need assistance, and this is the center that will do that. Plus, the continuing research on the impact of AI on employment, which jobs will be affected, and then the issue of AI ethics also going to be addressed here. So it's not just doing, well, there's a physical place. In fact, we were considering, we're working this out actually with some business groups that can donate. In fact, we have been offered already a place. And there's so much development here. This has evolved, actually. These two centers that we are referring to here, Center for Artificial Intelligence Research and Industry 4.0 Pilot Factory. Well, just quickly, Industry 4.0 Pilot Factory is the application of 4th Industrial Revolution technologies in our manufacturing operations. Now, the project has evolved because of our discussion with the Asian Development Bank that is considering supporting the country with its high technology adoption by way of a proposed loan of 300 to 400 million US dollars. And we're thinking of now incorporating this into the innovation hub that the ADB is trying to encourage us to create in the Philippines.
So ADB has a FS for this? ADB.
This was developed before the ADB opportunity. That's why I said the approach is evolving. Since we have not gotten any funding yet for these two, so we have not been able to go ahead with the implementation of these two projects. Now, with the potential ADB funding by 2025, not 2024, we might be able to incorporate this into that. But of course, counterpart funding from the Philippines will be required.
Yeah, so if I can, I'd like to instruct the committee secretariat to request if you can submit as soon as possible so we can delve deeper into this. If you can submit a briefer for each of these unfunded proposals and the reasons for not being included by the DBM. And also, if you can include the laws that you're required to enforce that are not budgeted under your NEP, just so we can delve deeper into it and see where
Yes,
we can get the most bang for our buck. So please continue.
Either a yes or a no from the chair, and we will just read it. Yeah, we want to understand it better. Yes, a briefer so that of course, we know AI and its importance. But as I said, let's not wait for the infrastructure to be set up before we start building capacity of our people to AI.
No, in fact, we don't need to spend money on building, you know.
Ayun pala eh. Bakit building daw ang kailangan dito?
When we originally proposed it, but now there are developments that might enable us to use new locations, you know.
Senator, actually we have an AI roadmap, and the Center for AI Research is just one of the recommendations.
One of the elements.
We are at the same time also forming a task force that would support government in terms of crafting the governance framework on AI, because I think there are a lot of AI can also be used to promote bad things, but what we are promoting really is good AI, responsible AI, and hence the need for governance framework, which is part of the work that we are doing. And I think this would address your concern with respect to the work that we are currently pursuing, apart from, of course, the plan to implement and build the Center for AI Research.
focal for this center and for the pilot factory, it's still under Yusek
Yeah,
Aldaba?
Yusek Tita.
Maybe just kindly give us a clearer understanding as a secretary, as a chair mentioned to me, maybe a building is not necessary, but a division. But as I mentioned earlier, let's not wait for the building to be set up before we do something about AI and all the programs. But you said walang space at walang computers ngayon?
As mentioned by the secretary, we, Aboitiz and Union Bank provided us some space. The building is located in San Pedro, Laguna. But up to now, we are not able to fully utilize that space because we don't have the resources to hire people as well as to procure the supercomputers that would be needed. But we do a lot of coordination, we do a lot of workshops and seminars to help people become more aware of the usefulness of adopting AI technology.
Yes, I think Senator Lauren has a very good idea about just if we can get the ball rolling, perhaps fund the program, not necessarily the physical infrastructure. I mean, in terms of building a building, as she said, and I will confirm that a building takes about 2 years to build. It takes a while just retrofitting it, and especially because it's so technologically oriented, it might even take longer. But that being said, perhaps funding a group already within the DTI that can already research AI, because it's very significant, and the impact it might have on our economy. Other countries are very concerned also about what AI might mean for labor, what the implications are. I think it's important that not only we learn about the implications are, and also what the possible how we can leverage it to help our industries. So I mean, I think it's very important that we get the ball rolling on that. And I am one with Senator Legarda in making sure that we already get into it. We already start researching into the program.
Perhaps action-based research, no, scientific research, not just for academic research, but action-based so that it's applied. What do you call it? Applied research, right? So that, so kindly give us, Yusek Aldaba, the proposal. You said you have a roadmap, and then we can do check, no, ganun, no. Yung infra, 2 years eh. Ibig sabihin, 2025 pa tayo magsimula ng capacity building or research. Hindi, simulan na natin yun with the existing physical space that you have now. Maybe we can give for equipment needed for the program, but not the infrastructure needed, right? Pag-usapan natin kung paano after you give us your roadmap. And then maybe a separate briefing or just the soft copy of the presentation. I would like to see, give us your roadmap, the soft copy, we see it. If we need to call you for a presentation, we can have another. Diba, Mr. Chair?
I'd like to direct the committee secretary to please address the concerns of Senator Legarda so that we can receive their reports that we asked for at the soonest possible time.
Proceed now to the unfunded STRACAP. What is that?
The STRAPCAP, or Standards, Technical Regulations, and Conformity Assessment Programs, is being undertaken or being led by the Bureau of Philippine Standards, one of the bureaus in DTI. The proposal for funding aims to continue the Philippine participation to international and regional STRAPCAP activities by ensuring that mandatory contributions are met as well as rotational hosting commitments are upheld. Because here we're dealing with a number of international organizations like the ISO, International Standardization Organization, the IEC, the International Electromechanical Commission, the APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, ASEAN, among others. So this will entail a lot of expenditure, including contributions to our being part of the organizations that I have mentioned. So that's why we have proposed a relatively small budget of 18.6 million pesos.
Tinanggal pa. 18 lang ang NEP nyo, tinanggal pa. 1/8. What happens? These are obligations to international organizations if you don't have the funds.
We,
Ano po mangyayari?
well, we pushed for it, but we didn't get it. Anyway, we need to strengthen the Philippine Standards Bureau, which now is thriving on the basis of casual employees. You know, yung nga isa pang the other thing that we will have to work on. The role of the Philippine Standards Bureau is getting more important because just recently we have received sort of recommendation that we look into the chemicals present in certain plastic toys, you know, but we don't have the
Heads of
people.
Philippine Standards Bureau.
Director Neil. Neil, where are you? Katahay. Neil Katahay.
The Philippine Standards Bureau is under the DTI and would benefit from the funding of this provision of international obligations? I don't
This is
think so.
one of their activities. For them to be able to pursue the activities, the Bureau needs funding.
The 18 million that you said was in the NEP but was taken out was our contribution to international organizations to which the Bureau is a member of and attends workshops, lectures, or just our membership?
Yeah.
What is it?
The membership fees will come from that budget request. The funding of the casuals that are working in the Bureau, the travels to attend conferences, and the cost for hosting some meetings here of these
Biglang
international
sa
organizations.
2024, hindi po tayo magbabayad ng mga membership kung saan tayo members. Pero wala rin present here. Wala rin sa GAA. Ano po yun? In the present year,
Yeah, it's not.
there's no funding also. What does it mean?
Yeah, but we had a request.
There's no funding this year. What is the impact of not supporting it next year?
Yeah. The cycle, Neil, can you explain? Jean? Sige.
Yes, Madam Senator. The struck-up budget is really for the attendance and participation of the Philippines to ISO, IEC, APEC, and ASEAN. The budget for the DFA is also allocated budget for the membership fees. But that 18 million, Madam Senator, is really for. Yes, ma'am. But this one, the 18 million is really needed for us to pay for all the travel, transportation requirements, because we do need to be represented in those meetings. We've proposed really just one meeting for ISO, 2 meetings for IEC. There are many meetings on ASEAN, Madam Chair. So we are really hoping that this can be included in the budget of the Bureau of Philippine Standards.
Natin, Mr. Chair, with your permission, COMSEC, the questions that I did, you give us a report based on their submissions so that we will review it aside from listening to you now, so that they can be a possible consideration, but it's the chair's decision to do that. And I will support whatever he decides on. Pag-usapan namin to. Travel lang pala yan, pwede naman daw kayo mag-Zoom, di ba? Okay.
Ma'am, absent. Baka ma-absent naman tayo.
Yeah, next. Next. Okay. Thanks. At least it's clarified that the membership is in the budget of the DFA. Kasi ang pangit naman na wala tayong membership fees. Maging ano tayo, ang tawag doon.
Okay, the next item, next slide, 21. There is this strengthening price and supply intelligence and consumer empowerment. You know, there is so much demand on the work of our CPG group, the Consumer Protection Group, and bureaus under it, including the Bureau of Philippine Standards. There is another bureau, the Bureau of Consumer Protection and Advocacy. And the funding that's being requested, it's about 108 million, will be used for the following: continuous airing of DTI's longest-running television and radio program, The Consumer at Iba Pa. This has been running for how many years now? 2005, almost 18 years.
Funded already, diba? I mean, it's ongoing, so meaning there's recurring funding for this show.
Yeah,
So this is in addition, you're going to expand it, or?
it's ongoing.
Oh, it's ongoing.
No, for 2023, wala nang funding, ano?
We do have funding, Mr. Chair, but the budget of the Bureau that is handling it is in fact paying only for just that. We really need some augmentation if we were to continue in the consumer at Iba Pa, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. And then there are other important activities like advertising consumer information and educational materials in transportation facilities or the Consumer Care Advocacy Initiative, establishment of a media audiovisual studio or room, subscription to establish global market research data service providers, statistical software that will interactively provide technical and fundamental analysis of prices of basic necessity and prime commodities which are being watched by DTI, and help DTI develop parameters, determine the effect of several economic factors on prices of basic necessity and prime commodities, and help forecast the supply and price level of goods. The efficient and credible gathering of domestic prices of BNCPs through development and maintenance of e-Presyo 2.0 system, which will gather information for monitors, retailers, and the public, and the employment of price trends monitors.
Okay, Secretary,
All
that's fine.
those things that are related to consumer protection is grossly unfunded.
But you also don't have a fund this year. So there must be a reason why there was no net and we did not fund it this year and none again next year. So how do you do your advocacy on consumer protection if there's zero funding?
Well, in the regions, we have part-time workers, They do also MSME development and doing monitoring at the same time.
Which is what we do in the Senate as well. All of us, we multitask with everything. Sige
So we
po.
want to
Yeah.
reorganize our consumer protection activity by centralizing, because you cannot expect a junior person, running after hoarders or profiteers in an area where there is a lot of, people of influence, that are operating in the region. So the plan that we have done this planning after the budget submission is to centralize the consumer protection activity in the head office and have a quick response task force.
Secretary, I think that's very relevant now. As you know, inflation is one of the, probably not one of the most important issue now. So I think it's very relevant that the DTI takes a stronger role in monitoring these hoarders and these manipulators.
That's right.
So I fully support this. I hope you can give us me and
we will submit
yes.
a program which we have just discussed recently that will require a funding of 300 million pesos to strengthen our consumer protection activities.
Is that more personnel, or is that in the what is the primary?
There is a
primary?
breakdown. Jean, can you explain the details?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The 300 million that we are requesting for would be in three basic items. The strike force that the Secretary has mentioned, which essentially provides a different way of doing things. We will mobilize an inter-DTI strike team to go around the country to really sort of augment or increase our enforcement activities nationwide. The second one that is really also part of our enforcement is on the vape, Mr. Chair. We need to make sure that the Bureau of Philippine Standards is equipped with the necessary equipment in order for us to check on vape. And then, of course, the major items here, Mr. Chair, is also on the consumer education and advocacy. So the issue really here is a full court press, Mr. Senator, on enforcing, on enforcement, monitoring, consumer protection, consumer complaints handling, and also on special laws like the vape, Mr. Chair.
So it's mostly a strike force?
Yes,
So
ma-
300 million for us?
No, the 300 million, Mr. Chair, is really mostly on the equipment for the
Equipment.
vape. Yes, sir.
Equipment for vape?
The 130 million, it's
Yes.
really a testing for the
I see.
certification and testing, so that we can check if there's cannabis or those are all part of the consumer protection budget that we're asking for.
Will this include items that are purely, I mean, will these include items that are also under the purview of the DA, such as rice, basic commodities? Will that be included in the purview of the strike force and the DTI's consumer protection group?
Should I give that to the secretary?
Asking, opo, ano pong sakop ng consumer protection group? Kasama po ba yung mga basic commodities katulad ng bigas? Yung
The
sa
main
ngayon,
responsibility for prime commodities, agricultural products, the main responsibility is with the Department of Agriculture. But we support the Department of Agriculture in monitoring, like monitoring of the price of rice in the market.
So if, halimbawa, pag nabigyan po ng budget itong consumer protection group, makakatulong po ito sa pag-monitor ng presyo, ng yung pagtaas ng presyo ng bigas
Surely,
at ng
yes.
basic commodities. Is that
Yes.
is that my understanding? Is my understanding correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Siguro tignan po natin yung plano nila pag-monitor ng anong mga goods kasama ang bigas at anong gagawin pag may na-monitor na lumalabag ng mga regulasyon at mga batas. At sino ang mga tao na gagawa, ano ang mga strategiya nyo, ano yung mga hoarders, anong intelligence network ang gagamitin nyo, at anong gagawin nyo pag meron kayong intel sa hoarders, wala kayong police power, kanino nyo ipapasa. Yung mga ganun. So gusto po namin makita bago namin suportahan dahil gaya ng sinabi ng chair ni Senator Villar, tama, kailangang proteksyonan ang publiko sa mga nagmamanipulate ng mga presyo ng bilihin. Protektahan sila. Pero kung paano po nyo gagawin, nagtataka lang ako na 0-2 taon may dahilan kung bakit walang pondo ang DBM. Baka hindi nyo nakumbinsi po. So kailangan nyo kaming kumbinsihin na meron kayong kapasidad na gagawa niyan.
But surely, DTI's operation in consumer protection can cover certain challenges as explained in the Price Act. But there are like running after hoarders, price manipulators. We will have to coordinate with the Department of Justice because they have NBI and also the Philippine Competition Commission because they have certain powers that we don't have. You know.
Let's proceed. Thank you. It's okay.
Implementation of RA 8800, Safeguard Measure Act, Competitiveness Enhancement Measures Program.
Secretary, perhaps what we could do, because it's taking time, the unfunded programs, then you could just submit it to the chair, then we can meet about it, which we believe must be restored. Yeah, rather than go through it. Just
Yeah.
go through the pages so that we see. Then I'll just stop you if I need to ask.
Next, slide
So, ang daming
23.
unfunded. Okay.
Implementation of the Vape Regulation Act.
Okay. That's the last, no?
Next. Okay na to. LEAP, meron na.
Okay.
Yeah.
Proceed.
That's it.
Okay, yes. The newly enacted law,
Yung pa rin. Wala.
the OTOP, has a funding of 76. Is it only 70 million? You kindly read into the record how much is the net funding of OTOP?
Otop. Money. Otop.
76.
Yeah. You said less?
It's still
Yeah.
under USEC Bless.
Yes, ma'am. It
Lahat na
is
sa'yo,
a
ah.
total of 76,492 for 2024 NEP from
Top next generation.
86,923
Okay.
2023.
Please
NEP.
explain to us, how will you fund the products of towns, one village? And just to put on record, OTOP, I'll read what I researched about OTOP. Although in the interpellations it must have been mentioned. It's an international program that originated from Japan. One village, one product. Its various versions and iterations in numerous countries are proofs that it is a viable branding and stimulus program for MSMEs. So, as I said earlier, I was sitting here because this has been in existence since 2002. My first term. This was further powered through the promulgation of then an executive order of President Arroyo in 2003. So, it's been 20 years and it only became a law this year. So, thank you very much for that, Senator Villar. Okay. So, and we only funded it for 76. Just walk us through, please, Yusek Bless. Give us one town and one product and what kind of help the Regional Operations Group of the DTI will call from the 76 million for that product para maintindihan ng tao. Kasi pagkamalan, pagkain yung ginawa ni Senator Villar, yung OTAP, masarap din naman yun, diba? Oo. So, para maintindihan, one town. At saka, what if there are more than one products? And there are in one town. Paano naman yung iba? Gusto rin nila magpatulong. Yun. Yan mga basic questions na siguro intindihin nyo. At sana may booth kayo sa National Arts and Crafts Fair ng OTOP booth or DTI booth para mapaliwanag nyo sa mga walk-in doon. Dapat. Sinabi ko yun kay Sherry. There should be an OTOP booth para ipaliwanag. Just tell us please, under the newly enacted law, how will you help?
Yes, ma'am. During the earlier years, we were very strict on really one town, one product. And in fact, if you remember, ma'am, meron pa tayong mga tanong sa ating mga mayor, ikaw, ano ang OTOP mo? So parang isa lang talaga. Pero later, mga siguro 2016, if you can remember that one, during the administration of Sec Greg Domingo, there was already a parang ano na siya, medyo nag-relax na ang definition. So anything in the municipality or in the town that you have kind of many raw materials found there and the skills also are found there, then it is not anymore limited to only one town, one product for that town. So if you notice, wala na tayong attribution as to itong munisipyo na to, ito yung kanyang ipopromote na OTOP lang. It has to be any product that they have abundance of raw materials, and also there are skills of people who will be making those products. And as to the question on ano ang maitutulong ng programa ng OTOP, meron po tayo, heavy tayo sa OTOP on product development. Also, in terms of getting, if it is a food product, ma'am, getting yung kanyang mga registrations, certifications, like certifications siya sa BFAD, yung LTO, CPR, because this will really make a lot of difference for them to penetrate a bigger market, like mga supermarkets. And then, we are also heavy on market promotion, like itong support natin sa ating mga regional trade fairs, because this is the para bang ito yung way nila so that they will be able to qualify for bigger trade fairs like National Trade Fair and International Trade Fair. And product design and development, it is also being funded by OTOP. The other area that is being funded by OTOP is the establishment of the OTOP Hub, which is a physical store. And in the law, medyo na-expand ngayon, ma'am, dahil lahat na ng ating mga munisipyo are mandated to establish their own OTOP Hub in areas where there is a big foot traffic. So makikita natin na ang promotion talaga and exposure ng ating mga auto products will be heightened.
Doesn't have to be a building again, no? Or it's another building, and will you fund building in every hindi naman?
It's hosted normally. Either provincial, like sa Ilocos Sur, the provincial government office hosted the OTOP Hub. Yung Ayala Mall, sabihin hosting OTOP Hubs also.
So, various iterations naman of hosting can be sa munisipyo, pwedeng sa barangay, pwedeng sa mall. Oo. Importante yung sineshepherd nyo yung proseso para tulungan yung paggawa ng produkto.
Ang maganda dito, ma'am, ang ating operator ng OTOP Hub is a private sector or the LGU. So it really strengthens also entrepreneurship, because this is an opportunity for some of our bigger LGUs or even cooperatives to be the operator of the OTOP Hub. Parang negosyo na rin ito sa kanila, but at the same time, they are ang tawag dito, yung parang sila yung consolidator ng mga products natin.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, thank you. So for the one town, one product, it was reduced from last year by how much percent?
In my record, it's 12%, sir.
I see.
22.
Itong pagbangon sa pangkabuhayan sa pagbangon at ginhawa, this is cash assistance or in kind? Both. But to MSMEs that were affected by nasunugan or
Ang starting kit ng mga goods pag sari-sari store, no?
pwede rin cash
Or
also.
sewing machine or cash certificate.
Ano ba, sari-sari store na
Hindi, cash certificate which they cannot spend somewhere else except to purchase
for the purchase of a certain. So kinokontrol nyo rin
items.
kung saan gagamitin. So ano ba, may tindahan ng isang negosyante, may maliit na sari-sari store at binaha. Pwede nyo bigyan ng pambili ng
Goods.
inventory,
Starting goods yan,
starting
kaya.
goods, pwede rin yan. So why was it reduced to zero? What is the obligation rate for that?
In 2022, there was no. It was not in the NEP as well. May insertion.
Yes, and then it was put there 100 million this
Insertion
year.
lang yun.
This is okay.
Oo.
And then
Sa
nagamit
GAA.
naman po yung 100 million this
Oo,
year.
gamit na gamit.
Completely.
Almost.
And then so baka insertion ulit kung ano, if ever. I see. Okay. Well, mga magandang program din yan. I just have some questions just regarding the FDI.
Yes.
I know our FDI last year was about, and correct me if I'm wrong, for 2022 is $9.4 billion. 22.
22. Oh, 9.4, yeah.
$9.4 billion. And I think the DTI has very ambitious targets for being in the top 3 of by 2028, I believe, for FDI. Traditionally, the Philippines has not performed well in terms of FDI as compared to other countries in Asia. And I noticed a lot of the programs, of course, local economy, but at the same time, I'm curious about how we will achieve a higher, the next level of FDI rate? How can we go from, where we are now, which is, I think, among around 6. So how will we reach that target of 2? I'd like to know so that we can also consider what kind of support budgetarily that we can give to the DTI.
I'll call on the head of the BOI, Board of Investment, Yusek Perry Rodolfo.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Chair, so tama ho kayo, the Philippines has been performing not so well when it comes to FDI. Just for context, sir, yung what you mentioned, so we really are targeting a stretch target to be the second largest recipient of FDI in the ASEAN region. So if you look at it now, sir, Singapore is really the number 1. Easily even on a bad year, it does $100 billion worth of net FDIs. Followed by Indonesia, siguro sir, mga $20 billion to $25 billion. And then Vietnam is about $15 billion. So after those three, sir. But meaning on average or typical year, tapos sir, tayo ni Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, tayo yung mga medyo naglalaban-laban sa 4, 5, and 6. For some years, like in 2021, we overtook Malaysia for some years. Like first semester, sir, of this year, we're better than Malaysia and Thailand. So doable, sir. So we have to overtake Vietnam and Indonesia, and we're banking on certain critical sectors where we are really receiving strong investment leads coming off from reform efforts that had been done by the Congress and also, sir, by the executive branch. So in particular, sir, very telling, sir, yung removal of the foreign equity restriction on certain renewable energy projects, in particular, sir, yung solar, wind, at saka tidal. Kitang-kita mo, sir, na after the President lifted that 40% ceiling on foreign equity, bumulusok, sir, yung interest and actual registrations. So nakikita, sir, natin yung registrations coming off from these policy reforms, mataas na, sir. These sectors, sir, where we are hoping to attract investments in, and these are really very capital-intensive sectors. Number 1, sir, is mineral processing. Particular, sir, yung sa nickel. We have 4 investment leads for HPAL facility. Each would be about $2 billion, sir. Tapos of the 4, dalawa doon yung medyo in very advanced state na, sir, of implementation. Second, sir, sa renewable energy, in particular, sir, sa offshore wind. Dito, sir, yung mga nag-register, sir, sa atin, kikita natin, for a 500 megawatt offshore wind project, mga 150 billion, sir, yung cost nun. So nakikita, and we have about 20 strong leads in our pipeline. And when we see the service contracts that have been awarded by the DOE, mas marami pa rin, sir. Tapos, sir, telco towers. Dito, sir, sa telco towers, mga $20 billion yung isang project na typical project that is registered with us. Tapos, sir, data centers. Yung data centers that we have registered for the past 1 year, yung typical cost would be low of about $5 billion to about $20 billion. So yun, sir, yung mga malalaking sectors where we are hoping that we can get enough FDI to overtake Vietnam and Indonesia.
How are we doing with manufacturing? I'm interested there because, of course, nakaka-generate yan ng trabaho. Kailangan i-promote natin yung manufacturing. So how are we? Kumusta naman po ang manufacturing natin?
Sa manufacturing, sir, we are doing quite well, particularly, sir, sa high technology export manufacturing. Yung typical na investment cost dito, sir, is lower than the sectors that I've mentioned kasi ito yung mga capital intensive. Pero may nakukuha rin, sir, tayo doon sa high-tech na mga export manufacturing. Tsaka din, sir, those for the domestic market. The President and the Secretary recently inaugurated nga, sir, yung sa Unilever. Ito, sir, yung mga typical mo na pang domestic market. Meron tayong mga new investments even sa processed food, mga flour milling, tapos, sir, dun sa mga feeds, tsaka, sir, sa mga processed meat products.
But what kind of budgetary support would you need for this to Hey, we want to achieve this target. We want to achieve at least, kung hindi man lang tayo, basta umangat tayo ng konti, wag naman tayo yung number 6. Gusto natin kahit kung hindi tayo makaka-number 2, maka 3 or 4 muna tayo, di ba? So how can we support? I'm interested to know how we can support you in achieving this goal.
Yeah. Well, of course, as in anything, we are promoting a particular product or a particular country like the Philippines to be an investment destination. We should do our promotional activities. The presidential visits that we have done have helped build a pipeline of projects, total of 73 billion US dollars in our pipeline. And this will be realized over time because there is a gestation period between initiation and realization. So that's one way. And of course, aside from presidential visits, we ourselves are separately doing it. Like Yusek Perry has already visited China recently for 5 times already, talking to prospective investors, a number of them. I've done also an investment promotion mission in 5 countries in Europe and brought back certain prospects. But quite apart from the investment leads that we generate, the mere fact, that we meet with a number of companies, CEOs and high-level executives, as well as doing investment briefing attended by hundreds of companies, we're able to do a selling job for the country, and their decision to invest could come subsequently. We go by percentages, maybe not all, but a certain percentage that will add up to the pipeline that we need to develop if we are to achieve the target of certain investment FDI level inflows into the country. I was showing earlier the breakdown. Doon tayo sa FDI. Doon yung malaking chart. Ayan. I think everybody has to, this FDI is not just equity investment in projects. This is the data that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is publishing. You notice the recent publication was the first semester of this year compared to first semester of last year. You'll notice that the equity, fresh equity, is just a part of the total of 4.9 and 3.9 for the semester. There is a major component which is debt instruments. These are debt financing being provided by parent companies to their subsidiaries in the Philippines or as part of the financing of a new project. These are an important component also is the reinvestment of earnings. This reinvestment of earnings in one press release we made yesterday, we said that this is an indication of continuing confidence of existing investors in the country. That is important to attract new investors. We need to have the anchors here. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that the build-up in net FDI inflow will be helped not just by new investments coming in, but by existing companies that are expanding here through reinvestment of earnings and also with funding from debt sources from their principals. Then the next table shows the build-up in foreign investment approvals of BOI and the other investment promotion agency. You'll notice that from January, this is by semester, by half years. First half year of 2022, 1 billion. The second half of 2022, 3.3. And first half of 2023, 8.4. There is a build-up in investment approvals. These are the approvals that will eventually lead to the FDI inflows. And this is adding to our confidence that we'll be able to raise the FDI inflows in the coming years.
is there a program existing in the DTI that would, if you funded it more, would well, would be since would help, I guess, increase where there's a direct correlation between foreign investments and that program. Is there a program currently in the DTI where if you usually investment there would translate somehow to higher FDIs in the short to medium to long term?
Well, the program BOI has a number of programs in promoting investments. DTI itself, mainly through visits, investment promotion missions to different countries, participation in international conferences. So this will entail significant expenses. So we need funding for these activities. We need to be seen and heard, by prospective foreign investors, and then we need to continue writing about the Philippines in international magazines. We need to spend for this.
Yes, I agree. For publications, international publications. I've seen specials from other countries, Africa,
Yes.
others. They routinely take ads out and do investment promotions, Economist, other magazines. So, do you have a budget for these things? Does the Philippines does not?
We don't have a special budget for it. We just.
If I can, maybe you should already start recommending to the. I mean, if in terms of bang for your buck, if these ads bring in, foreign direct investments, perhaps we can look at what these other countries. What does Singapore do? They get 150.
That's what they do.
Billion. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's copy what these successful cases are. Singapore has 140 billion, and they invest so and so in their promotions. Let's try and replicate it on our scale somehow, right?
Yeah. The Secretary will add something more.
Thank you, sir. So we have one program and two offices that are critically in need of funding. The program, sir, is the Make It Happen in the Philippines program. It has been quite successful and resonates well with the Make It Happen in the Philippines. Yun, sir, yung program natin. And there are two offices, sir, which are newly created. One is the Interagency Investment Promotion Coordinating Committee, which was created by the Foreign Investments Act, passed just by amendment to the Foreign Investments Act, passed just last year. There's supposed to be a funding of 50 million pesos. Pero up to now, sir, di pa namin nakukuha yung 50 million. And hopefully, sir, maging continuing na yun.
So wala siya sa NEP?
Wala,
Hindi
sir,
pa siya
sa-
nagkakaroon ng budget?
Hindi
sa
pa,
NEP?
sir.
Ba't hindi kasama sa nakalista dyan?
Sir, kasi sir, ngayon we're making do with the BOI budget.
Well,
Yeah.
making do, but you have to let us know.
Yes, sir.
Kasi kung di naman, paano ba yan mapupondo kung hindi nyo
Ah,
sasabihin sa amin?
Nasa NEP, sir, pero 11 million lang
It's
yung
in 11.
binigay sa amin, sir.
Okay.
And then,
Please,
sir,
please include that in the report that we were asking for
Thank you, sir.
so we can, because I think 11 million, you want to generate $10 billion.
Sir.
Kung,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yes, sir.
relative to what your, relative to your goals.
Yes, sir.
Wala yan, 11 million. If you're trying to, $11 billion naman ang makukuha natin. Diba, ang target natin. So, I think we should, if that's the program, if that's the core program for promoting FDIs, medyo mag-focus tayo dun. Kung,
Yes, sir.
kung sa tingin mo, yun yung makakatulong sa pag-attract ng foreign investments, tutukan na natin yun.
yes, sir. That's one, sir. And the other one, sir, is the EO18, Green Lane.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The President issued last February 2023 yung EO18 for the green laning of the permitting process for projects. So far, sir, we've been quite successful. 11 projects na, sir, yung naibigyan natin.
And what is the budget for this green lane?
Ngayon, sir, nakaka-capture lang siya dun sa isang unit within the BOI. So sana, sir, ma-expand natin.
Well,
yung
give us a
project.
plan
Will
and
do,
let
sir.
us know what to fund so that we
Yes, sir.
can expand this green lane. Kung if you need additional personnel,
Yes, sir.
excuse me,
And
if you need
I-
additional personnel or logistics,
Yes, sir.
let us know. Kasi I think in the end, so you're basically, yung isa, walang budget dahil naka-incorporate lang sa existing budget. Yung isa naman, may 11 million. So if our whole investment increase is anchored on 11 million pesos and
Yes, sir.
baka kulang pa. Kulang yan, di ba?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, the other important operation of DTI with respect to generating investments from abroad is the what the team that we have the foreign trade service officers. We have 33 or so assigned to over 30 countries, and they are very poorly funded. Like, for example, our representative based in Brussels is to take care of 3 countries, Netherlands and Luxembourg. Cannot even travel, because there is no allowance for available travel funds.
Yun na yun. Let's,
So we will, it has just became, it became the need for funding became stark when I hear requests, for funding from these people, because I'm pounding on them to follow up all the leads that we have generated. And for them to follow up, they have to move. You cannot stay. Like in the US, we have 2, one in West Coast, one in East Coast, no, 3, because another one in Washington, D.C. Yeah. But the locations of companies that we need to follow up are in the whole
Yes.
U.S.
Let us-
Same in Europe. We need
Yeah.
funding just for representation and the traveling of our representatives.
Yes,
These
let
countries.
us budget it, and Secretary, we can monitor kung ano yung production nila based on, we can see, na-increase yung budget. Ngayon, naka-generate na sila ng mas malaking FDI. I think we should give them, we cannot, in the end, we have to give them the tools to succeed. And I don't think, based on what we're hearing, I think kulang pa, kulang. So let us prioritize that, and I will, that'll be part of my, if you can give me some more details, I'd like to make that part of the committee's recommendation that perhaps we can increase this. Because for me, foreign direct investments, price control, that foreign direct investments directly impacts job creation and of course the economy. We have what we mentioned earlier, price controls, also yung sinasabi yung consumer protection. We just passed the bill on ITA. We have to improve our capabilities. At the same time, protecting against this inflation that's becoming a major issue. The DTI, I think, has to take a very strong stand on this inflation. We have to make a stand in that. If we have to kailangan investigan, i-raid, kung kailangan i-raid itong mga warehouses, i-raid na natin, investigahan na natin para makontrol na yung inflation, because that's, when it comes to rice, that's, it directly has a very large effect on, as you know, there's a very large effect on the purchasing power of the most vulnerable sector of our society. So that's the first, I think, for me, between these products, we really have to work to improve our capabilities there. And I think the DTI is equipped now, and we can make you even more well equipped in the upcoming year. So,
Mr. Chair, there is another important initiative that we've just gotten approval from the President and from the Cabinet. This is DTI's proposed 3-year food logistics strategic agenda. It was just recently approved, so we've not been able to present it for funding for the coming fiscal year. But I don't know, I wonder, whether we can submit the proposal, because this will entail setting up food hubs based on based on a study done by ADB, because they've studied this for the Department of Agriculture, but in coordination with DTI. There is a proposal to set up food hubs around Metro Manila, but we now have an operating food hub, the Nueva Vizcaya Agro Terminal, and having that terminal there, the farm produce gets consolidated in the terminal, and we're now linking the terminal to
the buyers,
institutional
yes.
buyers and institutional retailers.
yes, I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
You're increasing
And-
the prices that they can get if they go directly
That's
to
right.
the buyers.
And now we're thinking of including, we did not include rice regionally, but now we're thinking of including rice in the process. We're
Yes, I
still
think-
studying how it can be done.
Yes.
But that's one of the objectives. The ultimate objective is really reduce the logistics costs, the cost between the farm gate and the consumer, so that we are able to control the rise in prices.
Yes, and I think more money should go to the producers, the farmers. At least that money goes to developing the countryside if we're able to achieve that. So I support that program, Secretary, and I look forward to getting some more details regarding these programs. And I feel that we've had a very productive session today. I think we've covered a lot of topics, and I think that your inputs are very valuable. And I think there are no other senators who want to ask. No more senators who are lined up. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank earlier Senator Legarda. I'd like to thank Senator Legarda for her very valuable insights, and which will be a big help in drafting our recommendation. And I'd also like to thank the DTI and all your attached agencies, the Board of Investments, the Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, Design Center of the Philippines, and the Philippine Trade Training Center. Your inputs and expertise are valuable in ensuring that their budget is responsive to the programs and goals of this administration. Maraming salamat po. And as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Trade, we will ensure that the budget of the DTI and its attached agencies are sufficient and responsive in order to effectively implement their priority programs. It is my hope that the DTI and its attached agencies will achieve its goals and programs as we traverse into our path towards a more sustainable economy. So again, I await the recommendations that we discussed earlier. If you can please, COMSEC, please have them submitted to the committee so that we can already come up with some recommendations to help enhance the capabilities of the Department of Trade and Industry. So at this point, without any additional questions, comments, or clarifications, the budgets of the Department of Trade and Industry and its attached agencies, the Board of Investments, Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, Design Center of the Philippines, and the Philippine Trade Training Center are hereby approved at the committee level and deemed submitted to the plenary, taking into consideration the discussions today. I would like to convey my gratitude to the officials of DTI and your respective staff, as well as to the officials of the attached agencies and their respective staff for the well-prepared budget presentations. I would also like to thank all the employees of the Senate and the senatorial staff here today who made this hearing possible and smooth. The Committee on Finance staff, the Subcommittee M team, the LBRMO, the OSAA, and the senatorial staff present, among others. This hearing is hereby suspended. Thank you.
May ambush. Saan? Dito ba? Ano? Ha? Sa isang pwesto natin, may ha? Oo, tama sa ulo. Tama sa ulo.